Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to my suddenly much more spacious living room. So it's my favorite time of the year for spirits because it's the time of the year when everyone is putting out little gift packs and gift boxes of different kinds. And my favorites among those tend to be the little sample bottling sets. Producers will give you little samples of their lineup, and it's a great opportunity for reviewers like me to, drop a little bit of money to just try some things out. And that's what I've done with Koval here. So Koval is probably, I'm going to say, the preeminent distillery in Chicago at the moment. I've been a fan of theirs forever, since the beginning. We'll get into that in a little bit. So we'll walk through the whiskeys here. This is their rye, bottled at 40%. We'll get into that in a second. They've got a bourbon. These two should really be switched, but I'm going to save the last one for the end. The bourbon is 47% alcohol. All these are single barrel, organic. No straight, no nothing. Just probably quite young. They're not exactly telling us. And the last one is their 4-grain, which used to be under a different name, but we'll get to that in another second. Also 47% alcohol. So yeah, this is their gift box. Comment on the box itself. This thing is utterly terrible. It does have the Chicago skyline there, which is kind of nice. But when I opened this, I basically couldn't. There's a thing in there, and I could not get the damn bottles out of this. I had to actually open up the bottom in order to extract the bottles without tearing this thing apart. So please redesign this. It is not. It is not a good representation of your company. So let's put that over there. Okay. On to the bottles. So we'll start with the rye. This is a 100% rye. I don't know. I can't tell you how much of that is malted or unmalted. They're not saying. They're not saying how old it is. It is from a single barrel, and it is from barrel number 3C1W5W, one of my favorite Star Wars droids. And I'm going to give this a quick drop of water. Actually, maybe I'll pour all of these just to give them a little time to open up. Okay. I'm not going to sort of go through the whole thing of trying them neat and then adding water. I'm just going to go straight for the water. And the 4-grain. Okay. And a little squirt of water. What? And okay, cleanse the palate. All right. On the nose, this is the rye. It's the sort of Koval signature for me is this kind of fresh bread dough thing. It's just fermenting bread dough. So I should say, that's a little bit of background. Let me give this a second to open up. So Koval never really had the intention of sort of running with the Jim Beams and the Wild Turkeys and so forth. They sort of came to the distilling game from kind of a eau de vie kind of background. That was their tradition. That was their idea. They're using a eau de vie still, and they're distilling, with a very narrow cut. They're just getting the very nice creamy stuff in the middle and not pushing it too far hard in the feints at all. And so when they started out back in the day, what they were selling was essentially, well, they were doing like some cures and things, but they were selling basically eau de vie of single grain. So you had an eau de vie of rye, but also an eau de vie of oat, of wheat, of millet, and it was really interesting. I really enjoyed this a lot. They were all at 40%, and this is kind of a remainder from those days. It's really actually a remainder for a little bit later, when they brought out what they called the Lion's Pride series, and these sort of stout, stunted bottles with like a terrible label design, and you can get them. It's still single barrel, still 40%. But you can get them with your choice of light or dark barrel char. Thankfully, they give up on forcing us to choose between those. And then so this is kind of a holdover from those early Lion's Pride days. I don't think this has changed much since then, except thank God they've redesigned the bottle. Okay, so yeah, just fresh bread dough. It's a very light nose, kind of light and fruity. Bread dough, like a fermentation, it's a kind of yeasty, kind of, you're in a bakery. But then there's some like sweet cream butter, a little honey, a little like orange blossom honey, kind of a gingerbread mixed with Walker's shortbread kind of thing. Not particularly spicy or aggressive at all. There's some Lipton's tea. A little floral action, nothing in particular. Kind of just a nice flower shop aroma, and some oaky notes. It really smells less like vanilla or coconut, any particular sort of flavor notes. It just smells like a cooperage. If you've ever been inside a cooperage, there's lots of, it smells like someone working on oak, frankly. On the palate, and that's the problem with this. And I remember having this problem years ago. It's bottled at 40%, right? And there's spirits that can survive that. I don't think this does particularly well. It's the strength makes it thin, frankly, and the thinness kind of makes it bitter. Especially on the finish. It's not a problem with the spirit or even like over woodiness. It's just the thinness. Yeah, there's some nice flavors going on. It's got a kind of a nice sweet tea note. That bread dough thing again. A little bit of like a German rye bread with some caraway, and the caraway thing is actually huge. Really caraway, little aquavit, black pepper, something yeasty, but like a Colt 45. The malt liquor. You should try the malt liquors if you get a chance. They're all kind of terrible, but interestingly different in their terribleness. Colt 45 was the one that I always found interesting because it was very, very bready and yeasty, and that's kind of what you're getting here. It's a yeasty style of malt liquor. I'll give this one more shot. I can tell this is good distillate. It's just the strength is just kind of breaking its back. Yeah. No. Okay, Koval, I don't know if you're watching. Well, first of all, thank you for checking out my channel. Hit the subscribe button. I love you guys. I love what you do. I love how you think about approaching this whole spirits business. I've been to your events. I buy your stuff. So please, if I'm being 100% with you, it's because I love you. This is not competitive. This is $40 and it's, bottled at minimum proof, right? And it isn't showing up to play. For reference, if, I can go into a supermarket and buy a bottle of Ezra Brooks or old overhold, right? And it'll be straight. It'll be 2 years minimum, and it'll be bottled at 43, 40, 45%, somewhere around there, right? Just, and I'll be out on under $20. And you can say, okay, but those are just, barely legal ryes. They're not, this is 100%, right? And that's more serious and more interesing. The problem is you got on the shelf at the same price range, and you can get this thing. This is James Pepper, barrel proof, 100%, 95% rye. It's also straight, right? So you're getting the extra age, and you're getting a hell of a lot of extra proof on this. Now you might say, well, this is just sourced MGP stuff, right? And this is now it's beating the snot out of your artisan distilled, lovingly made crafted rye, but you could still make a point. Well, this is much more sort of mass produced, and fair enough. The problem is, for around the same price range, if you go still further down the shelf, you can get this. This is New Riff, single barrel rye, at gas strength. This is 100% rye, just like this. It is straight, so minimum 2 years old, and it is bottled at a hell of a lot more strength than this is. You kind of see what I mean about how this just isn't competitive. It's not bad. It's just you're taking a beautiful spirit and you're kind of crippling it with the strength. Yeah. So that's my point. I would give this 79 points. Koval, honestly, these are both at 47%. Your entire range should be at 47%, if not higher. You can, if you want to bump up the strength and charge and kick a little bit more money into the price, you will be giving us a better value, frankly. But if, in my opinion, you would be better served by keeping the price where it is, around the sort of $40 range, and then, making up your margins by selling some limited editions, right? Whiskey fans, we all love and also hate, but mostly love the limited editions. Everyone else, when they do like a cask finishing, a limited release cask finishing, have to go somewhere else for their exotic cask. You have oak whiskey casks sitting around. What about a rye finished in an oak whiskey cask? Or the other way around, frankly. Bottle it higher strength, give it a little more age, put it out there at, $60, $70, and, we'll love it. This is free. This is free consulting. I love you guys. Steal my ideas. Please use them. Because this is just not where it should be based on the quality that I can tell is there. Yeah, 79 points. Let's move on. Sorry about that. Tough love. Let's move on to the bourbon, which I believe is their most recent release, and it was still like a couple of years ago. I think it was at the release events for this. Anyways, what's interesting about that? So, Koval had spent years never making a bourbon, never even, and I suspect their reasoning was they just didn't like corn. And I imagine people had just been bugging them for years because they make whiskey, and they would say, no, we're coming from an eau de vie tradition. Oh, but whiskey, why can't you sell us a bourbon? And at some point, they finally relented and made a bourbon that is 51% corn, so it's barely legal bourbon. 51% corn and 49% millet, which is great. You can also buy their millet whiskey, but it's 40% like this. So just everything at 47, guys. Again, this is kind of the new thing for them, even though it's a couple of years old. And on the nose, oh, I'm sorry, single barrel again. It is barrel number NT4F13, also one of my favorite Star Wars droids. Okay, here we go. actually kind of a rusty penny thing coming out, like a charcoal briquette, a little bit. But then there's that sort of that bread dough kind of note again, the sort of fermenting bread thing. A little like dusty attic. It actually reminds me of like an old Armagnac somehow. There's it's not. I mean, it's totally different. It doesn't have the sort of upright upfront apple thing, but I mean, just something about the character of this reminds me of like old Calvados. Apple skins, cinnamon, dusty old stuff, allspice, a little cracked pepper in there. That caraway thing that was also in the rye is back. Not nearly as much. This is much more caraway than the bourbon is. Boiled peanuts, a little kind of like wood sour note. Coffee grinds like Vienna roasted, fresh coffee grinds, maybe Vienna roast stuff. A little bit, just a little tinge of creamed corn in there, just to remind you that this is actually a bourbon, even though it's only 51% corn. On the palate, there we go. That is what this should be, frankly. I mean, now we're playing. There's some nice layering going on here. You can tell it's young. You can tell. I mean, this can't be more than a year old or so. It's kind of like almost it reminds me of Bejan rum up front, actually. With like throw a shot of Calvados, like old Calvados, in with your Bejan rum. Sort of pineapple, pound cake. These are not traditional bourbon notes, you'll notice. Heavy on the pound cake. Some cider, little orange peel, little dusty attic thing again. Overstewed tea, black tea, black pepper, kind of coffee. Actually, there's a lot of coffee stuff going on. Yeah, this is a coffee lover's bourbon, frankly. But more like Costa Rican coffee than like heavy Brazilian stuff or something. Not Starbucks, where artisan, island coffee from some specialty roaster. A little ginger in there. Yeah, fresh ginger, kind of a banana peel thing, little fig. Once you get it, I mean, the coffee note is really dominant. Yeah, coffee and rum and Calvados, and this is good. This is real good. I'm going to give this 84 out of 100. I like it. Now, I should warn you, that's a high score, but I mean, it's a good score. But don't go to this expecting, traditional straightforward bourbon. My sense is they made this with the intention of not doing that, and it doesn't come across like that. I mean, you can tell it's an American whiskey. You can tell the oak is telling you that. I don't know. The build is telling you that, but the flavors involved are completely different from anything you're going to get from the guys in Kentucky, and that's great. I mean, what's life without a little variety? Let's move on. Okay, the Koval's 4-grain, which is this was always my sort of sentimental favorite. This is a mix of oat. That's the first one on the list, right? They're not telling you the proportions, but they are saying oat first. And in sort of wine style, that means it's kind of the main player. Oat, malted barley, rye and wheat. So you can almost think of this as a traditional 4-grain bourbon style mash, but they're substituting out the corn for oat, and oat is fantastic grain. I don't know why people don't use oat more for whiskey. It just makes this really fat kind of spirit. You can age it forever. Now, so here's a little fun bit of trivia. Why are these bottled at 47%? Right? It seems like a weird number. This didn't. Okay, part of the answer is this didn't used to be called 4-grain whiskey. So back in the day, back when there was only this sort of Lion's Pride line of single grain stuff, which I enjoyed and always, but I always thought, what they should do is up the strengths. I still think that, obviously, and they should do a release of some kind of blend of different stuff, of different grains, just as a kind of flagship, maybe. And soon enough, as I was thinking that, what they released was what they called the 47th Ward whiskey, because at the time they were living in the 47th Ward of Chicago. Now, I can't remember if they moved or the maps were redrawn, but they are no longer in the 47th Ward. But originally they were there. And of course, after they were no longer there, they had to rename the whiskey. So it is now 4-grain. And that's the story as to how they picked 47% as the strength. So this was kind of my dream come true, and I loved it when it came out, and I still love it today. Haven't tried it in a while though. This is barrel number PT6W73. One of my favorite droids from Star Wars. Let us give this a shot. You didn't think I would do the joke again, did you? I did. Ooh. Okay, so bread dough thing again, there's a little kind of fruitiness, but I'm actually getting... Have you had cucumber soda before? Because that's what's going on here. This smells like bread dough and cucumber soda. And it's great. There's like a spice note thing, spice cake note thing going on. If you ever had like a very cinnamony spice cake, like a cup of Earl Grey on the side, like with the sort of slight lemony note. Got just tons of cinnamon. You are getting oatmeal. I mean, it's really obvious, the oatmeal note, but it's like kind of the oatmeal where you have to leave it overnight in the fridge. But not just oatmeal. It's kind of like a general muesli thing, like with some mixed fruits mixed in with your overnight cereal. Some kind of like a bay leaf element, some walnut shells, like toasted walnut shells. Pumpkin pie along with the bay leaf. Something that reminds me of like an English style porter. Just straight up porter beer made with a sort of mild, dusty kind of English hops. Vanilla essence, straightforward, vanilla. Little dried grass, some pine needles in there. But I cannot get away from the cucumber soda note, and it's absolutely delightful. On the palate, got the mouthfeel on this. Why are they doing this to their rye? Jesus, guys. 47. Big, fat, also quite spicy though. Coffee cake, multigrain bread, just like serious multigrain bread. Oatmeal again. Some dates, wildflower honey, a little fennel in there. Cucumber soda is right there. It's kind of in the back. Lots of vanilla and coconut. The oak, for some reason, is coming out much more prominently than in these two. But I'm kind of enjoying it, so that's not a complaint. Bread pudding? Oh, definitely bread pudding, but like with a dollop of like I want to say yogurt, but it's almost more like yogurt pudding, like a kind of desserty yogurt, but with just yogurt flavored. It's just sugar and yogurt. Um, kind of a, there's that lemony thing though from the sort of Earl Grey note from before, but more on the lemon peel side than the tea side. Yeah, some pencil shavings, a little petite verdot going on in there, um, but also coffee again. Um, Not as much with the bourbon. This is more like if you can vat together some Kenyan coffee and some Darjeeling tea. I don't. That doesn't sound appetizing to me, but that's kind of what I'm getting here. Um, what's striking is the there's a combination of youth and heft at the same time that the wood spice, which just screams like age worthiness to me. I mean, they could, you know, long aging isn't really the house style for Koval, and I appreciate that. Like they're sticking with a kind of eau de vie of grain sort of thing, and that's great. But if they wanted to, like they could easily give this, like 10 years in a traditionally sized barrel, and it would come out, a force of nature. The oat spirit is just so good at sucking up that the sort of vanillins and oaky stuff from barrels, and just not demanding that Koval, but if you have any if you're looking for new projects beyond your your limited edition finishes, that might be one. Sort of a long aged, 4 grain long aged oat whiskey. Go for it. This is my jam. 85 points out of 100. Um, Extremely well made, but well presented too. So that's Koval. They make lots of other stuff, but yeah, this is, if I had to pick one to recommend, go for the 4 grain. Uh, the bourbon is nice. It's not properly bourbon, but it's a nice example of what they can do. But frankly, if they brought up the rest of the range to the same 47% this guy's at, like I might recommend the others over that. But at the moment, you know, 4 grain. Go with the 4 grain. That's kind of all I got. There's a bunch of other little gift packs like this out there. I'm going to try to review a whole bunch of them because it's just fun to try lots of things. All right, so 79, 84, 85. That's it. I'm done. I'm out. Thanks for watching, and cheers.